In 14th century Portugal, political alliances were often sealed with marriages. Prince Peter, heir to the throne, was set to marry Constanza, a noblewoman from the powerful neighboring kingdom of Castile. It was a match designed by his father, King Alfonso IV, to ensure Portugal's safety. However, when the Castilian procession arrived, Peter's attention was captured not by his bride, but by one of her ladies-in-waiting, a woman of extraordinary beauty named Ines Circumflex de Castro. Despite his political marriage to Constanza, Peter began a very public and passionate affair with Ines Circumflex. This infuriated his father, who saw the affair as a direct threat to the kingdom. Ines Circumflex's brothers were exiled Castilian nobles, and by welcoming them into his court, Peter was dangerously entangling Portugal in Castile's internal conflicts. King Alfonso tried everything to separate the couple, banishing Ines Circumflex, but Peter defiantly followed her. After Constanza died, Peter lived openly with Ines Circumflex, and they had children together. For King Alfonso, these illegitimate heirs posed a risk of future civil war. He had reached his limit. In 1355, while Peter was away, the king sent 3 assassins to Ines Circumflex's residence. They found her and, in front of her children, executed her. Peter was shattered. His grief quickly turned to a burning rage against his father. He raised an army and waged a bloody war against the king. Although a truce was eventually brokered, Peter never forgave his father. When Alfonso died 2 years later, Peter became King Peter I of Portugal. His first order of business was vengeance. He hunted down 2 of Ines Circumflex's assassins for years, finally capturing them. After a public trial, he sentenced them to death, and legend says he personally tore their hearts out, screaming, "You have done the same to my heart." Then, in one of history's most macabre acts of posthumous revenge, he declared that he had secretly married Ines Circumflex, making her the rightful queen. He had her corpse exhumed, dressed in royal robes, and placed on the throne. He forced every court noble to approach the decaying body and kiss its hand, swearing allegiance to their dead queen. He then had her reburied in a magnificent tomb at the Alcabasa monastery. When Peter died, he was buried directly across from her, so that on the day of judgment, the first thing they would see when they rose from their graves would be each other. Their tombs remain there to this day. The daughter's vengeance. The early 20th century in China was a time of chaos, known as the warlord era. Regional military strongmen fought for control, and law was often non-existent. In this turbulent world, a man named Shi Jinqiao rose from humble origins to become a brigade general serving under a powerful warlord. His family, including his college-age daughter, Shi Jinqiao, enjoyed a life of newfound status and comfort. This all ended in 1925 when General Shi was captured by a rival warlord, Sun Chuanfang. To set an example, Sun Chuanfang had General Shi publicly beheaded at a local train station. His head was then paraded on a pole, a profound act of disrespect meant to dishonor the entire family. When the news reached Shi Jinqiao, her initial grief was consumed by a fierce resolve. She vowed to avenge her father's murder and restore her family's honor. She changed her name to Shi Jinqiao, meaning to establish a nation, and began a decade-long quest to find Sun Chuanfang. Her task seemed impossible. Sun was one of the most powerful men in China, but fate intervened. A nationalist army, the Kuomintang, launched the northern expedition, defeating most of the warlords. Sun Chuanfang lost his power and left with nothing, retired to the city of Tianjin, shaved his head, and became a devout Buddhist. Unaware of his transformation, Shi Jinqiao never gave up her search. After 10 years, she finally tracked him down. She stalked him for months, learning his routine. On November 13, 1935, she found him kneeling in a Buddhist hall, leading a sutra chant. As the congregation prayed, she walked calmly behind him, drew a pistol, and shot him 3 times in the head and back. Instead of fleeing, she stood her ground, distributing leaflets that explained her motive: filial piety, the Confucian duty to honor one's parents. Her arrest and trial became a national sensation. Public opinion was divided. but many saw her act as the ultimate fulfillment of a daughter's duty. The overwhelming public support led to her being granted a full pardon by the government. Having achieved her goal, she lived out the rest of her life in peace, her name etched in history as a symbol of righteous vengeance. The slave who broke the Mongols. In the 13th century, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan was an unstoppable force that annihilated any kingdom in its path. One of its victims was the vast Khwarezmian Empire. During the invasion, a young Khwarezmian prince was captured, sold into slavery, and ended up in Egypt. He was purchased by the Sultan and trained as a Mamluk, an elite slave soldier. Given the name Qutuz, meaning rabid dog for his ferocity and training, he rose through the ranks through sheer skill and determination. The Mamluks eventually overthrew their masters and established their own sultanate, and against all odds, the former slave prince Qutuz became the vice-sultan. The ghosts of his past returned when Genghis Khan's grandson, Hulagu Khan, led the Mongols westward. They sacked Baghdad, ending the Islamic Golden Age, and moved into Syria, sending a terrifying ultimatum to Egypt demanding surrender. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. While his court trembled in fear, Qutuz was filled with a cold fury. He remembered the destruction of his homeland. He deposed the ineffective sultan and took the throne, declaring that Egypt would fight. In a bold act of defiance, he had the Mongol diplomats executed and their heads displayed on the gates of Cairo. He then gave an impassioned speech, asking his council, "Who will defend Islam if not us?" Moved by his words, the Mamluks agreed to march. Qutuz allied with another Mamluk general, Baybars, and they assembled an army. They were vastly outnumbered, but a political crisis forced Hulagu to retreat with most of his forces, leaving behind a general named Kitbuka with a smaller contingent. The two armies met at the Spring of Goliath in Palestine, the Battle of Ain Jalut. Using clever tactics, Baybars lured the Mongols into a trap where Qutuz and the main Mamluk force lay in ambush. The battle was fierce, and at a critical moment, the Mamluk line began to waver. Seeing this, Qutuz did the unthinkable. He threw off his helmet, shouted, "O Islam! O Allah!" and charged directly into the fray. His courage reinvigorated his troops. For the first time, a Mongol army was broken in a major pitched battle. The Mamluks achieved a stunning victory. Days later, they liberated Damascus. The myth of Mongol invincibility was shattered forever, largely thanks to the vengeful determination of a former slave. Tragically, on the return journey to Cairo, Qutuz was assassinated in a plot likely orchestrated by his ally, Baybars. Despite his inglorious end, his victory at Ain Jalut changed the course of history, halting the western advance of the Mongol Empire.